Good evening. Should we start? Kindly tell him to switch on this. So, are we audible to our cloud friends, online friends? So, kindly let me know if I'm audible. So we'll start. So, what did you do these 2 days? Did you read the syllabus? Okay. Fine. So, what did you read in that syllabus? Good evening, Nikita. Okay. Yeah, Pada, what did you read? What did you get out of that reading? Women's Reservation Bill passed by Rajya Sabha. It has any implication for you? When you read something, you deduce something. What is deduction? The conclusion that you make. Right? Sometimes these conclusions are based on ignorance. Right? Sometimes these conclusions are based on information. And sometimes these conclusions are based on perspective. First example is if you just read the social media posts, right? WhatsApp university notes, their YouTube shorts, motivational speeches. Then you come to certain conclusions, right, which are devoid of any informed opinion because they are generally one way. You're just getting feeded by something, right? And there is an entire network that feeds you. Yes, sir, audible, okay. So you get somewhere hammered by these information which you perceive to be true. So there, obviously, your conclusion will not be correct, right? Second aspect, information based. Now you read about something, right, from multiple sources. Then you also develop your opinion about it, and then you read it again. Then whatever conclusion you will draw will be partially true, not absolutely true, even if you get information. Why? Lot of information that you will get will be based on someone else's experience, not yours. Third is when I say perspective, right? Perspective kya hai? Subjective understanding. How I perceive a particular phenomena, right? So a boy walking on the road gets slapped by a girl, right? And there are a lot of people observing this phenomena, right? There is mother of that boy standing in her balcony, right? Friends of that boy sitting somewhere in the pan corner, chai corner, right? There are strangers who are passing by, right? The mother of the girl who slaps the boy, all of them are there nearby, right? Everybody will feel about the same situation in different way. Why? Why they will feel different? It is the same thing which is happening, right? What has happened is one incident, similar or same incident for everyone. Why their interpretation will be different? What is that point of view? Subjective evaluation. Okay? So everything has two faces, objective and subjective. When you're reading, we gave you the syllabus. When you read the UPSC syllabus, it's an objective information that you're getting. Meaning of PABAD, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, whatever. Right? That's written in a very objective manner. Right? Now, when you're reading it, you might realize, okay, this is a topic, this I have to read. Fine? But how do you develop? You know the topic, but how do you develop content in that topic now? Because that is not mentioned. That if we'll ask you the meaning of PABAD, what type of meanings we'll ask you? How many different types of meanings can exist? ये भी clear नहीं, right? What are the references from which you should read that meaning? That is also not clear. So see, there is one aspect of the syllabus which is objective, which is visible to the eye. But there is another aspect of the syllabus which is not visible to the eye, that should be visible to the mind. Understanding this logic? So there are two facets. One, what you see. One, which is manifest, visible. One, which is latent. Latent heat, पढ़ा है किसी ने? Your burns because of vapor, right? Boiling water takes place because of the latent heat. Correct. So there is something called latent, which is not visible. How UPSC makes the question paper? Obviously on both the criteria. It also assumes that people have read the syllabus objectively. ये होता है, ये होता है, होता है, right? Then there is another aspect that people should also go beyond this. ये होता है, वो होता है, वो होता है. They also should know why it happens, right? What are the other possibilities, the way it can happen, how it is linked to something else, why this should be studied here, not here, or why this should be studied again somewhere, right? So see, all these permutation combinations are made by UPSC. And then they ask the question. So first thing you should know, they're not going to ask the question from unit 1 or that topic, right? They are going to ask question from the subjective understanding of the syllabus. They will assume that once you're writing the first question of paper 1, you know all the 26 units of PubAd. That is how you are going to write the answer. That is a challenge, right? That is why once you start studying one topic, another topic, another topic, another topic, then ultimately you should have an interlinked understanding of all the topics. Because everything that you're going to study is public administration. So see, you should not view the syllabus in compartment, first of all. Right? That is why that microstructure has been developed, so that you can actually know that within this topic, okay, what is the, in general, the scope of this particular topic that we should know about, right? So when you start understanding anything, start first with the face value, then go beyond it. Unless you do that, you have not completed the topic. You're studying your general studies, right? You go and see the general studies paper. You'll realize that in general studies paper also most of these students, right, why they fail to score 400 plus, and why they think that 370, 390, 400 is a very good score. Why? Because they get stuck with information. They get obsessed with information. Everything is information, right? Information is only a means. If women are provided 33% reservation in parliament or legislature, right, that is just an information. What will be the implication of this? That is the analysis. So most of the questions in general studies also focus on analysis now, right? Even though they may seem to be straightforward, right? But they are not that easy. Because if you write some information, after that, what will you write? That is the biggest challenge. Right? So we have written the provisions of president, or we have written the provisions of parliamentary system, right? What now? But you write somewhere 100, 150 words, 200 words, tab kya likhoge? Right? That is why this temperament is necessary to develop. Right? And it is obviously developed over a period of time. It cannot happen in one day or even in 1 month. Fine, but we'll try to develop that for you, don't worry. That is our target. Fine, we are not teaching you just so that you can finish your syllabus and go. Right? We are teaching you so that you should have the maximum possible marks in this subject and other areas as well, which this subject may help you get. तो वहां से हम पढ़ना शुरू करेंगे. कैसे पढ़ना शुरू करेंगे? ठीक है. Before we enter into this actual class, right? Let us understand. Let us know your names. You can start. Anyone? You know my name? कुमार अनिकेत. अच्छा पहले स्वाति शुक्ला. लाइन वाइज ठीक है. Swati, what have you done? Graduation, which subject? Political science. Good. Some BSc. Mathematics? Okay, just BSc, general BSc. Jhalak, huh? What is the subject? Honors. You've done it? Okay. BCom doing. You finished it. Okay. Okay. BCom doing. Done. Finished it. Delhi University? Manipur. Okay. Masters. What are you studying? From? D. Which college? Faculty. Okay. Pre. Computers. B Tech. Okay, that's a new course for me. Computer application. Okay, yes. Okay. Which university? Hyderabad. Usmania? Okay.
Hello sir, my name is Pradeep.
Puneet. So both are one or two. कौन one होगा कौन two होगा decide करना है ना? Fine. Okay.
My name is Pradeep and I have done my bachelor's from SRM.
SRM. Okay. BTech. No? BCom from? Okay, Kolkata. Kumar NK. Yes. Okay, that is called BSc Honors. Okay. Engineer हो तुम? हाँ. What engineering you do? Computer science. From Hyderabad. Vizag. Okay.
My name is Mansi Trivedi. I have done medicine.
Mathematics. From DU?
No, CCSE.
Okay, Chaudhary Meerut.
So color, and I have just recently completed my graduation in economics.
Eco Honors. From DU? Okay.
So myself, Natina Sharma. I have completed my BSc from Jammu University.
Jammu. Okay. BSc, what subjects you study? Medical. Okay. Fine. So we have, okay, online people can also tell me, no problem. Right. So I am Ashutosh, chemical engineer, masters in environmental. I pursued halfway, left it. Environmental engineering, IIT Bombay. Then law from Delhi University, CLC, Campus Law Center, which again I left because I was giving my mains. After that, obviously, I gave 4 mains, 3 interviews with first attempt with physics and PubAd. Second attempt with PubAd and geography. Withdrew from geography in the last moment and took sociology. Then next 2 attempts with PubAd and sociology, right? 367 was my last score in PubAd. 290 something in sociology. And likewise, in 2 marks, 110, 124, 136, right? All mediocre marks. But only one conclusion, right? Never get in conflict with the interviewer. Right? Even if you have to prove a point, don't get into conflict. Fine, but that was the time when we did not have much. My father was IFS, but still, he was 83 batch IFS, but still he did not have understanding of when we were giving the interview, right? Because it was almost 25 years, and he could not give that proper exact guidance, right? Which we would have used in interview. That time the mock interviews were conducted less, right? And generally people did not opt for mock interviews. In one of the interviews I went, which was conducted by one famous teacher then, but he told me something which I did not like. He told me that you should not, while leaving the interview room, you should not show your back to the interviewer. Then I said, if the interview room is so big, how will I go back, right? So I cannot just go back like this, no? I will have to look at the door, right? So I said, this seems to be irrational. I will not accept this. Fine. So ultimately, I did not go for much of mock interviews, right? Except with one person. He was a retired UPSC member, so he took my personal interview at his residence. Fine, but still, he was also quite old. I mean, he could not give that. So one thing, none of them told us that you should never put an argument with the interview. And this happened with me twice. Third time, I was little patient, right? But still, right? You cannot change the destiny. So this is my story. But then since 2009, 10, we started. I went to Bombay again, Mumbai, to start my research. But I did not do it because there were a lot of youngsters now, right? Who are technically youngsters, younger than us, quite younger than us, who are now into that research. So it felt little odd for some time, right? That A lot of 22 years old are doing it. I'm 29 years old. I'm doing that, right? So it had to. I took a rethink of that. Okay, should I do it? So I did not do it. Then I thought of writing scripts, right? So I associated with few of my friends uh, who are now part of TVF also, right? So they were building that at that time, something like that. So they were making short movies, documentaries, they were writing scripts. So I started writing some scripts with them, fine, but I realized that it will take a lot of time because the way they were struggling, I could see that. Fine. So I said, what is my forte, what is my strength is UPSC. Right? So every time, because I was scoring very high marks in my mains, only interview was a big problem. Last attempt I missed by 2 marks. Even though I was in the waiting list, but only 13 people finally qualified from that. 180 people are kept in the reserve list, right? So technically they are qualified. So I would say I am quasi, you understand? Semi. So I quasi qualified the UPSC, right? Finally could not make it to the final list, right? Otherwise we would have got IRS or DANIX. There were two services which were given. So then I started teaching 2011 around, right? So we started with Chronicle IAS, and then many people we got together, ex-IAS, then we started GS Core, and then we did a lot of things. Finally, then I started my own, right? Because of so many factors. Because we wanted to use a different method altogether. Our method, even though we are part of a commercial system, but we don't focus on commercialization, right? So we are not concerned about finishing something in 3 months, 4 months, or 2 months, whatever, right? We use our own pace, and we make sure that until unless every student has been made capable to understand this particular subject, or at least he has or she has the ability to deal with the UPSC, right? So till that time, we don't leave you. That is one problem we have, right? But probably it will not be a problem for you. It will be a problem for us because we have to invest a lot of time and effort in that. But we make sure that once the student goes out, he should not run from pillar to post to do this, to do that, to do that. No. You will never require that. Okay, that I guarantee. In fact, if you do it properly, right, you can teach PubAd, but don't open coaching in front of me. Right? I have many students teaching in various institutes right now, including all the top ones. Fine, but yes, one thing is very common. All those people have worked very hard. Hard work is the only essential ingredient, right? Whether you reach interview, you get good marks or not, fine. But your reaching interview cannot be stopped if you work hard. In interview, what happens, that has a lot of factors. Your destiny is also a very important part of that. Fine, probably you're more suitable for something else. But if you reach interview, you have done your work. Now it is up to them whether they find you credible enough to join the civil services, right? Because government does not have the approach to eliminate you. Prelims is also designed to select those people whom government feels, though obviously every system has human error. You cannot negate that. Lakhs of people are giving today. So obviously they will have to make mechanisms to filter out certain people, non-interested, as UPSC says, right? That we want to weed out, filter out non-interested people. Now, those non-interested may be visible in many forms, right? So, you can see the entire process is positive for you, right? It welcomes you if you work hard. And that is why we have tried to create, I would not say very small, but yes, a small group of people, right, whom we can nurture and they can get results. That is our target, right? Anybody who says PubAd scoring nahi hai, right, you should outrightly reject that. There is an entire generation of people who have been nurtured in a very illogical manner. Right? Majority of the UPSC or the Labasna itself has sent the reports that we are not getting the kind of students we want. Why they are not getting it? Because see, the methodology has not changed. People want to understand, study things in the same manner. They want some pointers, they want some facts, they want some content that they will mug up and write. Why do you want to get into a system in that manner? When with less effort, right, but with more thinking, you can get into the system. Right? So you should work with us religiously, right? Not as a casual. If we find you are very casual, right, first step is we'll call your parents. Okay? Second step is we'll try to reform you through our methods. Third step, it will show you the door. Please go. Don't waste your time. Because see, if everybody is capable, right? But everybody is not willing. There's no question mark about capability. Everybody is capable. Right? This is not a NASA exam or ISRO exam. So everybody is capable, but how willing they are, that is very important. So most of the people come because they want to prove a point. Some people come because they want to prove what parents did not do. Right? Some people want come because everybody is doing the same thing. Right? So that should not be your criteria. Your interest is your own. It could be money, it could be power, it could be fame, it could be anything. Fine, but it should be so important that it should drive you to work hard. कोई भी चीज हो सकती है, right? You should never feel guilty कि भाई यार money is my motivation. Yes, it can be. Right? What is the motivation of Elon Musk? Sending people to Mars. Whom will he send? Who wants to go to the Mars? Right? लोग अपना घर तो छोड़ नहीं पाता. But you don't want to leave your house no? And come here and study. Right? Nobody wants to go to the hostel. Mars पे कौन जाएगा? Right. So you obviously futuristic projection. Right? Google, Microsoft, whatever the companies are, all are created with a specific purpose, commercialization. Right? Commercialization is not bad because it gives lot of access or access to resources to lot of people. If things are not commercialized, they will not be competitive. Right? If you don't think that, okay, this may be a motivating factor for me, you will never work hard. So never feel guilty कि money motivation बिल्कुल है, क्यों नहीं है? Right? It is one of the biggest motivators, every theory says. Right? But is it the only motivator? No. Security is our survival instinct. Actually, survival instinct, right? You see a dog on the road, you just do like this, right? It will respond to you. You're not doing anything to it. It's a survival instinct. You will do the same thing. The dog starts walking towards you. You'll do the same thing. So survival है, तो money एक important factor है. Security, right? We have linked it to it. So our society has linked this money to security. Nothing wrong, right? Power, that is also an essential aspect. Why? We are living in a society where there is a lot of disparity. We are living in a society which we know is already unjust. So what is wrong in having power, right? But are you using or are you acquiring this power just for yourself or for so many people like you? Okay, that makes the difference. So the moment you say, I want power, but do I want power all by myself? No. I want power because probably I am fortunate that I can have it. I have the means to prepare for an exam so that I can become one. So then what? This power can be now used for greater purpose. Spider-Man. You know? With great power comes great responsibility. So you can be Spider-Man in UPSC. What is wrong? So see, everything that may be motivating you, right? It can be justified on several grounds. So don't feel bad कि भाई ये मेरा motivation है, बिल्कुल है. और होना चाहिए. There should be something which should drive you, right? So if the drive is there, right, you will qualify the exam. And you cannot keep motivating yourself every day. Why? It is not motivation. It is known as morale. Right? Morale is something that needs boost every day, or let's say every third day, every fourth day. Right? Motivation is a long-term orientation. Once you decide, you know that I will be depressed, right? I will be irritated, I will be frustrated. This will happen to me. You know already. Considering all that, when you decide a goal, that is motivation. Everything else is morale. So every day you need a morale boost, right? Not a motivation boost. So all those people who say motivational video, they are not motivational videos, they are morale videos. Okay. Fine, Ayush, history, political science, good. Okay, Haryana. Nikita, mathematics, BSc, great. Yogendra, BSc, okay, fine. So, मैं पढ़ता रहूँगा, don't worry, in between. Okay. So, we'll start today with the basic concepts of public administration, right? And I would say it is the pre-concepts, right? They are not exactly the syllabus or coming from the syllabus, but without them, the syllabus cannot be understood. Right? So let's put this as concept. Right. So just now I said women reservation bill, right? Now once the government decides that we'll give reservation to women in parliament, right? How government is going to do that? Let's say it decides what it wants to do, right? But how it is going to do it? How? Simple thing, right? Once I decide, I will do it, or we'll do it. How we'll do it? Delimitation 2026 तक wait करना पड़ेगा, हाँ? Right? So they have taken the agenda for the next election also, right? Very smart. Gujaratis are very smart actually, right? So let's say, whenever you think of something, right, it has two questions: what and how. Right? Let's say, for example, government, right, is a system which is working for society, right? So it is the system which decides what to be done. Right? Once it decides what is to be done, then the next question is how it should be done. Right? So this part how, this part what, right? Generally is studied in politics. Or if I want to give a sophisticated name, political science. So political science is an area which studies what of the government, right? What kya karna bhai? Women reservation. Okay. Disaster management, right? Environmental governance. This kya karna hai? Ye karna chahiye. So there is an entire area, field of study, which is dedicated to understanding what or government's role or government's focus in the society. So what government is, what government wants to do. See, there is an entire area which got dedicated to the study of how. How means what? Contradictory लग रहा है. How क्या है? Yes, correct. But what does that mean, implementation? Can we say it's more about tools? Right? In general, if I say there are procedures which needs to be followed to achieve what has been decided. So see, the study of how will generally relate to all the methods, tools, techniques, right? Various means that we are using to achieve the end we have decided. See? So what generally relates to the end and how relates to the means. So I want to become IAS, right? But how will I become? So see, government has two major functions. One, to decide what is to be done. Other, to decide how it will be done. So see, the part of the government which deals with how, okay, that is generally taken up by administration. This is taken up by the politics. So if I want to simplify it and say, what does minister do? What? Right? What does an administrator do? How? So civil servants are more concerned with how, right? And politicians or ministers are more concerned with what. So the study of political science or public administration is concerned with obviously the study of government, right? But government has two parts: one, political part; other, administrative part. The political part is called ministerial part, and the administrative part is called public administration, or civil services. So your entire study of public administration revolves around these concepts only. What we need to achieve and how we can achieve these things more efficiently. So PubEd's main focus of study is how efficiently we can do what has been decided. Right? So how to design the system, how the system will function, who will be recruited to this system, what they will do in this system, how to control corruption, how to restrict deviation, how to improve their performance, everything that relates to this how is studied in public administration. Are you able to understand this logic? So what is the broad domain of this study? That is the domain of the study, right? Now, obviously, when this subject emerges, we know that, okay, the broad aspect that this is what we have to study, right? But when we start developing a subject, when we start developing something into a content, academic study, right? We start looking at everything in detail. So if I say broadly, administration looks or talks about implementation of programs, policies, laws, whatever the government decides, right? So it has main function or core function to implement things, right? But how it is going to implement it? Now we start looking for that answer. What is the design? How will I arrange? How will I acquire these civil servants? How will I arrange them into a system? Right? How they will function? What kind of role they will have? What responsibility they will have? Right? What mistakes they can do? So we start studying this in detail. So every chapter in your syllabus is actually dedicated to those all micro aspects of detail. How to recruit, recruitment, personal administration, right? How to give money or funds, right? How to give resources to the system, financial administration. How to design this organization, how to, let us say, motivate these civil servants, how to control this deviation of the system, right? Organizational theories, accountability and control, right? So every chapter see that you are seeing is actually one facet, one aspect of this study. All of them, when you link together, becomes public administration. So see, primary concern of what we are going to study is mostly to deal with how, right? So before we do all this, right, we'll start with very basic idea of what is a society. Now you'll wonder why we are talking about society. Right? Why we are talking about society? See, the moment you said we want to do something for whom? People. Where do we find these people? Society. So, without even desiring, without even wanting, this study or society or definition of society becomes inevitable for understanding public administration. Because it is the society for which this system exists and functions. Why will this system exist at all if there is no society? So, right from the traditional times, right from the beginning of human civilization, the day people started believing that they are organized beings, okay, they are not nomadic. Even if they were nomadic, they also had some form of administration or some form of system to perform things, right? Hunting, gathering also required planning. It also required some instinct. It also required some information, right? When the animal will come, what will it do, right? So they had to protect themselves and they had to trap their prey, right? So see, they would plan it when it will be rainfall, right? When there will be a disaster, when there will be a calamity, they have to think all of that. So even if you take the most elementary of the human being, right? They also had to do some planning. They also had to do some logical understanding to do what they wanted to do. But over the time, as we evolved more and we became more organized, people like we started farming. Obviously, that created probably more opportunity for us to find out how we can organize ourselves better. Because now what we are doing something, a stable activity. We had to be static and not always moving. As a nomad, you have to move, right? But as a farmer, you don't have to move much. See, what is called settled living. So the moment we started moving towards that settled living, it took a lot of time, thousands of years. So when we started that, obviously we realized the importance of developing a system. You understand what a system is? What is a system? Something which is systematic, right? Something which is organized in a particular way so that it gives us the maximum benefit. That is a system, right? If we think of this board, right? The board has no utility if there is no plug. So the board and the plug form a system, right? That plug has no utility if there is no electricity. See? So this board, this plug, and the MCB, the electricity, the mains, they form a system. Right? That electricity is not possible if there are no grids, if there are no transmission lines, if there are no transformers or sub-transformers. That forms a system again. See? Everything is connected to everything. Fine? But yes, we cannot link everything to everything just that way. We have to focus on what we are trying to know. So we are talking about this board, so we will restrict our system to this. The board will function if I have this switch. Now I have defined my concern, that my concern of understanding this is only this much. Right? My concern of understanding this pen is to understand the design and whatever equipments or whatever parts this pen has. I'm not concerned about who manufactured this pen. Even though that is also a part of system, right? But looking at everything, anything that is around us in terms of components which make up that particular phenomena, that particular thing, right? That is known as system. So see, system is like coordinating things together, right? System is like understanding how things are interdependent on each other so that they make a sense to us. अब systems गलत जुड़ जाएंगे तो क्या होगा? Whatever we want will not happen, right? So obviously, if I want to start plugging this right into the mobile, will it work? It will not work. See, so that is why the understanding of system is very important. Things should connect in a systematic, organized manner so that they make sense. Same way, when a society or when people come together and they have to perform certain functions and they want to maximize their effort, right, or maximize the output, sorry, minimize their effort, what they will do, they will systematically arrange everything. So since the time people started living this systematic life, right, they understood the value of organizing things. So from there emerges the concept of society. That if people organize themselves, if they stay in an organized manner, right, if they have interdependence on each other, right, then ultimately they are all going to benefit out of that. That is the beauty of becoming systematic. Systematic is not disciplined, right? Systematic is more efficient. So logic is that people started living together and they realized that this living together is necessary for all of us to benefit. From there you see the concern, right? Like the origin of religion and many other things if you study the Vedic period and post-Vedic period or later Vedic period. So how the or even aborigines of Australia where actually religion emerged. Right? So there is a scholar Durkheim. Durkheim has studied how religions evolved. So he started studying some aboriginal tribes. Okay, they are known as the indigenous of Australia, from where the concept of religion emerges, as per him. So see how religion emerges, right? Or how the understanding of nature emerges, why there is rainfall, how to tackle rainfall. See, everything which emerges over a period of time, it is because of systematic living. People started knowing things. One person cannot gather information. So a lot of people bringing information together, understanding things, nature, and now when they are pooling, jointly they are bringing all this information, they are able to deal with the problems more easily. So see, society emerges from the inevitable need that human beings cannot survive, sustain individually. They have to live in groups. So there are various factors which bound people together. What are those factors which bound people together? Survive. Correct, right? Yes. Okay, Shweta, right. What are the provisions which, or sorry, what are the needs or reasons which bind people together? Survival is one, correct. Then you might have seen a lot of movies, huh? Two cops going together on one, or two police officers on one project, and he says, "Watch my back." That's coordination, right? Survival. चाहिए यार. Correct. There are a lot of advantages. Culture, correct. Fine. So when you are coming together, there are several reasons. The first important reason he cited, survival. That is our natural instinct. So if we have to survive, we'll form groups, alliances with others. Why we'll form groups with them? Obviously, we want to survive, but why them? Why not someone else? Why don't we go and start searching for people somewhere else? Geography. That is more easy reason. We are living together in one particular area, right? So our location, our geography is also a very important factor in making us probably more eager to associate with people around us. Geography is one big factor. Survival is another factor. Then, like you said, yes, mindset. We may have a similar history. We may have a similar ancestry. We may be coming from the similar source, right? So we might say, yes, come belonging to one kinship, one family. You understand kinship? Extended family. Right? So like that Mongolian king, कौन था भाई बड़ा famous? Genghis Khan, right? Or Genghis Khan, Hindi में बोलते हैं, right? But Genghis Khan actually his name. So he had thousands of wives. And it is said that almost around entire Central Asia, right, his children are everywhere. Right? So many of the races were probably born out of his ancestry. So it is possible that we all belong to one ancestry, coming from a common source, common kinship, common family. So we may be bound by several reasons. And once we develop that bond, once we realize that we will be together, and this being together is going to protect us, is going to make us happy, is going to minimize our effort, is going to maximize our benefit. Once we realize all this, what will happen? We create a bond. That bond is based on all these factors, right? But as human beings are, we are always self-interested. So creating a society requires collective interest, not self-interest. You have to sacrifice your interest. Then only people will come together. So let's say, even if we decide we'll come together and we are bound by these reasons, right? We need something very concrete which binds us together. We need something, right? Which will regulate our behavior. Now there are 1,000 people who are living together. Out of that, 20 people decide that we'll kill the others and we'll acquire the entire power to ourselves. Right? 100 people decide something, no, we'll break away, we'll form another political party, we'll become Aam Aadmi. हम अपने राजा को खत्म कर देंगे, अन्ना जी को साइड करेंगे. See, it is possible. So whenever people will live together, okay, they may not always be bound by common interest. They will also be focusing on individual interest, right? They may develop subgroups, sub-interest within the group, right? So obviously, if a society has to sustain, it has to create some rules, regulations, laws to control this kind of deviation. And that is how the collective interest can be protected Otherwise, there will be no society, it will start disintegrating. So you see, right from the Vedic times, ancient civilizations, every society wanted to manage or control the members of that society. So how did they do it? They started thinking that, okay, yes, there is something called power. As a society, we collectively have power. We are 10,000 people. We have power. We have muscular power, right? So we have power, right? We can together do a lot of things, but there are a lot of people in this within us who want to break this system. So what should we do? We should create another system. That system's primary work, because we cannot sit together all the time and keep watching what is happening. So let us create a system. This system, right, will permanently look after these problems. Who is running away, who is breaking the law, who is deviating from us, who is trying to break this group, right? Whatever. Who's trying to violate the norms of the culture, so they create it. Or there emerges a need to create a system, right? That system is called the political system. Politic or politicos means power. So it comes from the idea that, okay, there is a need for power system to be created. This power system's primary role will be to maintain the decorum of the society, which we have decided. So see, people in any society, whether it was monarchical system, right, dictatorial system, whatever system, type of system we create, whatever power model we choose, it is up to us. But in any society, right, there is need for a system which uses the power of the society, where the power has been accepted or given by the society to that system, that, okay, fine, on our behalf. It's like a security guard, right? So on our behalf, right, you will manage the problems of society. Chaukidar, Pradhan Chaukidar, pata hai ki nahi? Right? You're not aware of politics, or you don't have interest in politics, how can you be a public servant, right? You should have keen interest in politics. That is what you have to do rest of your life, power. So see, there is a need for a power system. This power system will manage now this society. So the members of the society will be relatively free to do other tasks. Right? See, so we create a system. That system is the system of power, which has certain functions. So every society requires many functions to be performed. One of those functions is the function of power, control, regulation. That function is performed by a system called political system, or we use a more formal name for that, state. So what is a state? Instead of defining it in very abstract term, we can simply say, what is a state? State is a political system which exercises power on behalf of society to manage the society. That is what a state is. There are several scholars who have studied the state, right? There are several forms or several methods, or you can say frameworks, in which this state can be organized. So you can say there are various formats of this state, like you say, democratic state, right? Communist state, monarchical state, right? Socialist state. All of them, these adjectives basically imply the nature of that state, right? But in general, the state simply means a system of power. So in India, we have democratic state, right? But it is a system of power. Right? In India, we have parliamentary democratic state. Right? In US, presidential democratic state or presidential democracy. Right? In UK, parliamentary but limited monarchy. Right? Australia, Canada, Israel, every country in the world obviously has some system of power. Right? Iran, Saudi, many of the Middle East countries who have traditional systems, right? But they have monarchical systems, or they have traditional elite systems. That is also a system of power. So anywhere you think of, right, whether a traditional society or a more modern society, every society needs a system of power that is called state. So see, state is the biggest political term which you can use. Everything which is in the nature of politics, everything which has political orientation, political party, state का part, right? Then legislature, state का part है. Executive, state का part है. Judiciary, part of the state. Anything which has political orientation. When you say citizens as voters, state का part. So try to understand, right? Imagine that you hire a driver, right? But that driver is so smart, he's so mastermind that he not only drives your car, right? But he repairs it also. He not only repairs the car, but he can do so many other tasks also. Now, slowly and slowly, what is happening? You are giving all your functions, transferring the functions to him, and say, you not only take care of my car, you also take care of my house. So slowly and slowly, what is happening? I am becoming dependent on him. Same happens with the state. When society gives functions to the state, you perform, right? You develop, you regulate, you control, right? You defend our boundaries, you maintain peace. See, you are giving functions, functions, functions. So a time comes when state becomes powerful than society. And that eventually happens. Why? Because those who have power, they can control anything. Right? Power is the most vital factor in organization, or sorry, in society. So any organization which has power can ultimately control the society which created it. So see, when states become dictatorial, when you say dictator kaise karta hai? Same way. Right? Or he would have captured the power from one, taken the entire power to himself. See? So how power is arranged in different societies, to what extent people have influence over that system, right? Can people control that system, right? Based on this, we classify different types of political systems, right? Starting from highly controlled centralized system to more democratic or decentralized system. So a system which is highly controlled by state, or a society highly controlled by state, you say it is monarchical or dictatorial system. A state which is highly controlled by the society, you say it is a democratic state. So how the power has been organized or arranged in a society, based on that you classify the nature of state. So state simply means a political system, a power system which has been created to manage and maintain the society. Obviously, there are several views regarding state. So if we just understand that there is a state. Now, in very simple way, you understand that there is a state, it has three organs. This is now how it is. It is a modern definition. Right? Traditionally, when you say state, state has power. How this power will be exercised, now it depends upon nature of state. So if it is, let's say, monarchy, in monarchy, what happens? All science students भी हैं यहाँ पे. Right? How do you create monarchy? Why do you accept monarchy? See, it is quite obvious that when we started becoming into an organized system, instantly we did not do it. Right? So all the societies which can be referred to as somewhere traditional, even though there are a lot of societies today also which are traditional, but in general, when I say, okay, there is a society, people have come together, they have formed a society, right? They want to manage it, but they are traditional societies. What is traditional society? India is a traditional society. Traditional का मतलब क्या है? Orthodox, correct. But what does mean traditional? No, correct. Follow those which are, right, those societies which are ascriptive in nature. Obviously, you will encounter lot of terms, but don't be confused, right? Slowly and slowly, you will remember them, right? And you'll start using them in your general studies. When you read newspaper, you will encounter them everywhere. You'll start making more sense of the newspaper when you read now, right? So there are societies which are ascriptive in nature. What is ascriptive, right? Which is coming from a convention, right? Which is based on or which is hereditary in nature, right? Where the conservative values, why I'm using the word conservative? Because they have been started by someone and we follow it without questioning. So, where conservative values are accepted without question. So, you simply accept things, right? You treat people, right, on the basis of their birth. You classify people on the basis of their, what you can say, inborn traits. So you start classifying entire society in a way that everything that happens in the society is already decided by certain customs, certain norms, certain things which are already established. So you follow things without knowing why they are happening. That is an ascriptive society. So, in any society where you have already developed norms and traditions and customs and practices and you are following them without even knowing why they should be followed, that is called an ascriptive society. So, where your birth, right, your hereditary traits, your, what you can say, the things which you acquire from birth, when they are accepted, right, as your identity, that is known as ascriptive society. So generally, the traditional values, when we say traditional, we mean we are not taking human being as important. We are taking those customs and tradition as important. So human beings are subjected to what is established, right? And what is established is based on without any question. So something which is established without any logic, without any review, without any debate, without any dissent, that is called ascriptive value. So in family, when you say, when your father or somebody says, once I have told you, you have to follow. Now that is ascriptive. So things which emerge or which have been there in existence since long time and they are accepted without any criticism or question. That is ascriptive. So ascriptive societies have very narrow, right, basis of evaluating people, categorizing them, or classifying them. So you can say that these societies do not value the criticism. They do not value dissent. They do not value debate. They do not allow participation. They simply want you to follow what has been established. See? So conformity becomes an important aspect of ascriptive society. So any society which is backward, or to an extent you can say ascriptive in nature, right? They will not like, right, any type of vibrant system, any type of developed system. They will not like it. Why? Because then they cannot control the society. Then they cannot regulate the behavior of its members. So the traditional societies generally prefer monarchy, or for that matter, if I say, we all were once this tribal councils. Right? So there were tribal councils which were manning the tribe. The word tribe itself means a community, a closed community, a closed group of people. So we all would have started as tribe. Tribe talks about a very close group. Right? It's not a negative term. It is how we all start associating. So see, wherever you find dominance of custom, tradition, rituals, culture, past, whatever values which are there, right? And we generally follow them. Why? So that we can preserve our identity. That is known as ascriptive society. So these societies generally prefer a kind of system which maintains their identity, controls the members in a very strong manner, does not allow any form of deviation. Okay, so they prefer to establish these systems like monarchy, right? Like in monarchy also, you have a benevolent monarchy, right, and an autocratic or exploitative monarchy. For example, when we say Aurangzeb, so we are referring to some ruler, some king who was little, right, or more exploitative. Right. In the same manner, when we refer to Akbar, even though he might have his own problems, right, but still the history remembers him as a liberal king. In the same manner, right? So see, even monarchical systems are developed in two formats, either benevolent or autocratic. In benevolent, right, people enjoy certain rights. The ruler, the king, and the people have good relationship. The king tries to promote the interest of society, right? Whereas here, the king protects his own power, and generally at the cost or at the sacrifice of his own people, he tries to control the society. So they don't have humanitarian values, right? They have dominant humanitarian values, but the system which is designed is monarchical. That means there will be a person who will be occupying the position of power, right? This person will acquire this position either by power, war, violence, right, or by natural heredity. So either you are coming from a family and that is why you are appointed, right, or you have taken this power by a brute force, a war or violence. So he acquires the power and he maintains the control of that power. That is how dynasties are created. So see, or autocratic or benevolent. In any way, the system, right, works more or less in similar mechanism. So generally, monarchical systems were developed because they provided ease of controlling and governing the society. So majority of the traditional political systems, right, or even medieval political systems, you'll find they are monarchical in nature. You understand first this logic? नहीं आ रहा है? Monarchical अच्छा है बुरा है? It's good or bad? Not just the ruler but the system also, right? But yes, you're correct that if we evaluate it from today's scenario, monarchical may not be good. Right? We might not prefer the system. So see, majority, two-third part of the human civilization, whenever we had organized political systems, right, we mostly had monarchical systems. Below them, a very organized, systematic administration was created. So see, every system, political system which is created will require to govern and manage the society. For that, it creates an administrative system. So what is the administrative system? It is the means, right? It is the mechanism by which a power system manages the society. Right? So it is an organized effort to control and regulate the society. So who performs this organized effort? That is administration. So even in monarchy you have administration, even in tribal councils you have administration, even in modern political systems you have administration. Everywhere you have administration. So administration is a general term which refers to the system which is used by the state to promote or achieve or reach the goals of the society. So how it is going to do all this, right? It cannot do it alone. So it requires an organized system. That organized system now known as the administration. So administration is a system below the state, right? Or it is a means of the state through which the state wants to achieve the goals of society or control it, regulate it, depends upon what is the nature. So see, in every era, we formulated a state, we have a state, right? How the state, how the power system will work also dependent upon how evolved we are, right? What will be the nature of this government or state depends upon how developed we are. So when I say traditional society, it generally preferred this system, right? Like today, you might have heard of something called Khap Panchayat, right? You also know about Gram Panchayat. What is the difference? What is Khap? What is Gram? You've heard of Khap Panchayat? No? Honor killing. You've not heard of these things. You're just born. No? Sure. You've not seen movies also where you might find such references. So let us say, right, you have Khap Panchayat. Khap Panchayat is a cultural panchayat. Panchayat, you know? What is Panchayat? Yes, Kapil. See, it is a form of administration. How to manage villages or small regions and solve their problems. For that, you need a system. That system is called Panchayat because generally it comprises of 5 people or used to comprise of 5 people earlier, right? Local government on village, correct? Ayush, but today we say local government. I'm simply talking about the Panchayat which exists through the traditional, you can say, history throughout our country or civilization throughout the world. Everywhere we find some form of local body. So we had Panchayat, right? So there were Panchas. Panchas are those who basically use their wisdom, right? Their knowledge to resolve or provide solutions to the problems of villages, rural areas, or smaller regions. So every village, okay, had a panchayat. They had a different form. For example, when you think of the Mauryan era, Guptas, even Cholas, and likewise, right? And even in post-Vedic, later Vedic phase, you find the emergence of sabhas, samiti, councils, committees, right? Or the existence of a village level official called Gramini. Gramini was village headman, just like a sarpanch, right? Performing many functions. So whenever people will come together, they will have several functions, right? Conflict hoga, they need development, they will ask for certain things, security. See, so even if this small region is there, it also requires certain functions. So Khap Panchayat is a traditional panchayat which is caste based. Its primary function was to protect the caste order. You know what is caste? What is a caste? Right? For 3 days we have to do this only. Right? Only then you will understand meaning of pabad, definitions of pabad, right? तो बहुत सारे basic vocabulary clear नहीं होंगे तो how will you understand? You'll have to simply mug up. That will be a waste of time, right? For you. What is caste?
Hierarchy based on pollution.
Correct, but that is not the definition of caste. That is the basis of caste. बेसिस अलग है, डेफिनेशन अलग है भाई. डेफिनेशन क्या है? कास्ट क्या है? इट्स अ ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल, right? By classifying the society, right? अगर आप society को you are arranging or categorizing the society, right, into a cultural hierarchy, means one over the other. So if you are creating a graded structure, right? So if you are developing or categorizing the society into a graded structure, one over the other, right? And how you are grading these groups, these people, on the basis of their birth, on color, right? Or on some certain characteristics which are coming from their generation to generation. That is known as caste. So caste kya hai? It's a classification or grouping of the society in a hierarchical order. Fine. In a hierarchical order based on culture and birth. So where people are born, in which family they are born, how they look like, right? What exactly are certain traits which they have inherited from their previous generation. Based on that, when you start classifying the society, and then you develop this into an order, right? Highest to lowest, right? That is called caste. So caste is a cultural category. It is based on culture, right? It is based on ascriptive values. Just now we have written. That is what caste is. It is given from birth. You cannot change it. That is why caste is called a closed system of mobility. Closed system of mobility means you cannot move from here to here. You cannot move from here to here. That is why closed system of mobility. Now, once you are born here, right, you cannot, once you are born here, you cannot move from this to the other level. That was a closed system. So you are creating stratas, right? On this, you are arranging the groups. What is the basis of arranging the group, right? There are various ascriptive features which are generally coming from their birth. So see, people do not have the liberty to change their status in the society. Once they are born into one strata or hierarchy, they will die there itself. That is caste. But the moment you say that I am a rich person, what is the basis of this classification? Rich? Money, right? Economic, correct? It's not culture. Culture is what you are born with, right? Or born in. Economic or money is something that you can acquire. So see, something which can be acquired, something which can be achieved, something which is based on merit, and something which allows you to change your status in this society. That is called class. So class is an economic status which you can change. Caste is a cultural status which you cannot change. See? That is the biggest difference. So caste or Khap Panchayat was created or was a feature of traditional society of India, right? Where this panchayat or this powerful body tried to maintain balance at the village level, at the rural level, amongst different castes. So it was like a judicial system, it was like a police system, it was like a magistrate, it was like an administration, it had so many functions. But what it was doing, its primary function was to maintain and manage the caste system, to preserve the established order. एक बार जो preserve हो गया, you have to keep it as it is. See? That is Khap Panchayat. So we saw a lot of incidents in recent time, let's say 5, 7, 10 years back, right? 15, 20 years back. These incidents started becoming more visible. It was always there, right? But in Rajasthan, Haryana, Western UP, right? And certain other feudal areas. Why it was so prominent? जहाँ पे feudalism ज़्यादा था. What is feudalism? You said you are studying GS. What are you studying in GS? चंद्रयान कब लॉन्च हुआ? यही पढ़ रहे हो तब से? हाँ, correct. It's a land revenue system, right? Stratification of society, correct, Jyoti? Right. So let's say feudal system कैसे emerge होता है? भाई, see, there is a feudal lord. It's an exploitative system. Where there is land, right? A person will own the land or estate. Large amount of land, right, is called an estate. Or commercial use of that land, which we refer to as estate. So now word real estate, right? Estate is like ownership. So in Europe, right, and obviously many countries of the world, but mostly in Europe, you find the emergence of estate systems, where a person or a family owned large tract of land, including all those who were settled on that land. So imagine all those people who were settled on that land also, they had houses, they had their own farms. With everything, they acquired this land, entire land. So that means they develop a small type of state within themselves. The feudal system क्या है? एक छोटा सा state है, right? Whose king is that feudal lord. He owns the land and thereby owns all the resources in the land, owns the people on that land. That is why in the feudal system there were feudal lords and slaves. Fine. So there were slaves. These slaves, or you can say tenants, they technically became slaves. So these were the people now, because they were living on the land which was owned by that feudal lord, right? So what happened? बच्चे नहीं पीते हैं चाय, it's okay, right? Students should not drink much of tea, right? A lot of caffeine in tea. So see, these feudal lords, they own the land, right? And because these people are sitting or surviving on the feudal lord's land, they pay him taxes, they pay him dues, or they work for him. So ये feudal system, जिसको अब जमींदारी भी इंडिया में था, but जमींदारी में थोड़ा सा difference था, right? So there were different systems which emerged in India also. They were like feudal systems only. जमींदारी, महलवाड़ी, रॉयतवाड़ी, अलग-अलग forms थे. But majorly वो भी एक feudal system था. So wherever, right, you had feudal systems, mostly like in Europe. These feudal systems were working like mini states. And there were a lot of feudal systems, feudal lords. So there, right, when you see the structure of that societies or those societies, right, obviously that was also very exploitative, right? When you come to Indian context also, traditional society. So yahan we see the purpose was to maintain that control of power, so that society remains in that balance. So caste or Khap Panchayat was mainly created for this, right? So in recent times, right, if you've not read the news, but it's okay, you see the emergence of, they were always there. But you see the dominant emergence of these Khap Panchayats becoming very strong or very visible in feudal areas. Why? Because feudal areas were created in such a manner, or they wanted to control power in such a manner that they should regulate the behavior of every member in that area. Mostly the control over women. So in feudal systems, you'll find extreme exploitation of women, right? Feudal systems were totally functioning on patriarchy or patriarchal mindset. That is why we use the word feudal. In Hindi, we use the word samantiya. Okay, that technically means that something which is coming from the nature or the culture of owning things, right? Possessing things. So women, like land, was also considered to be a possession. So you see, these systems like Kapancha, now they emerged, or they were there already there, but they became quite popular. Why they became quite popular? Because now the feudal tendencies, it's been 70 years since independence. But feudal tendencies have not reduced. So when government announced or when government initiated, right, certain gender development programs, or let's say programs like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, that is which is more recent, right? But in general also, when they started various gender development programs, so that we have the sex ratio, favorable sex ratio. So obviously, it hurt the ego of that caste or feudal system. They were not ready to accept it. So a lot of honor killing started, right? People marrying from their, as per their own will. Okay, love marriage is becoming common. So these societies were not able to accept it so easily. That is why Khap Panchayat came in news, that Khap has given this direction. Right? Khap has punished this couple for this thing particular. But what is Khap? It is no more legally a system today. Why? Because we have Gram Panchayat. What is Gram Panchayat? Gram Panchayat is for development, welfare. It is not for preservation of caste. So Gram Panchayat is a legal system created by constitution. Why? To provide welfare and development to everyone who is living in the particular area called village. Right? Whereas Khap was for preserving the traditional system of caste. So see, if Khaps are operating, Supreme Court has already declared Khaps are illegal, right? So Khaps are operating or were operating obviously to preserve that traditional ascriptive nature. You see, in any society, right, the traditional values will always want that a power system should be developed in a particular way so that it can control the people, right? So most of the traditional societies, there are many today also, right, or even aspects of India which is traditional, quite traditional in nature, right? Bharat is not traditional, right? So we should not think in terms of Bharat and India today, right? We should take कि भाई ठीक है भारत हो चाहे इंडिया हो दोनों जो है प्रोग्रेसिव है, right? But let us say that if we think of traditional India, right, rural India, villages, right, where dominant values are coming from historical times, they are more valued than education. They are more valued than some new modern values. There still these kind of traditional systems function, right? You see, they will always prefer a kind of dominant power system. So over the time, what happened or when you say monarchy, right? A political system like monarchy where there is dominance of a person or a family, right? Or a group over power, and they transmit power from one generation to another. So see, monarchy has certain features, or a monarchical state can only function when it has certain characteristics. One is the power is held by a person or a group of people, but generally by a person, right, who may belong to a particular group or family. We generally call that family royal blood. So royalty dominates this system. Now, what is that royal blood? We are not bothered about. But it is a royal blood, the one who owns power. Right? Traditional Indian context, this power was mostly held by the Kshatriyas. In various forms. They had various jatis, sub-jatis, which emerged over a period of time. So they generally held on to the power. Why? Because, again, the caste system. So when it was understood that the birth of this entire society has been from Brahma, right? Manusmriti and others can be referred for that, right? So Brahmas, the biceps of the Brahma, created the Kshatriyas. Okay, that was a symbolic meaning, right? In reality, it did not happen. So they were believed to be traditionally originating from the god to control the society or manage those positions. Right? So ये systems चलते रहे, no doubt. So in every monarchical system, wherever in the world, Europe, right, even in Middle East, wherever you find these systems, India, wherever they were based on certain features. So either people belong to a royal family, royal blood, or they came from very powerful elite group. Generation to generation, power was transferred. Power was transferred from male to male, right? Except for few exceptions like Rajia Sultan. Fine. But power was generally transferred from male to male. This means, or this is referred to as patrilineal system. Patrilineal, right? From one male to linear, right? In a sequence from one to another, one generation to another. Patrilineal system, right? Based on rule of primogeniture. What is it? Society, anybody has studied? Paper 1. GS paper 1. So see, monarchical systems were designed that they follow patrilineal system. Power from one to another. Then rule of primogeniture. Right? Dominance of consanguinity. What does it mean? ये सब जो है अरबिक टर्म्स नहीं है, राइट? एग्जाम में आते हैं, पेपर में आते हैं. Patrilineal, you know, right? Primogeniture, eldest male. The power goes to whom? The eldest, yes, correct, Tushar. So the eldest will or eldest male will occupy the power. In case he is not there, male will occupy the power. So this will be followed. Consanguinity is the blood line. Power must remain within the blood, right? Within the kith and kin. CONSANGUINUITY. So it should remain within the bloodline, within the extended family. Nobody can take the power beyond this. See? So they followed all these methods, and ultimately, हमारे लिए क्या important to see? What was, how was, or what was the role of people? What were people called? So see, in monarchical systems, people were called subjects. Subject is a term which obviously denotes dependence. They are subject to. They are dependent on. Right? So subjects are those people, right, who are dependent on the power system for their various needs. They generally cannot force the system to deliver them goods and services. They can only beg or they can demand in a very respectful manner from the system. So see, subjects do not enjoy. Sure, you can note it, Ayush, if you want. Yes, definitely, you can note it down. But this is just for your understanding, right? It's not the class note, right? But you can note it down. Yes, it will always be used in your GS everywhere. PubMed में तो होगा ही होगा, हर जगह use होगा, right? But you need to understand the terms, so you can write it the way you want, right? So subjects are okay, or they are dependent on system of power. So once you are a subject, you do not enjoy various rights. So monarchical states, okay, generally tend to become exploitative, even if they are not. Why? Because the people are treated as subjects. Subjects do not have rights, right? So ultimately, the subjects are exploited by people in power. So in monarchical system also, there is a need for administration, right? A system through which monarch will control the society, right? What kind of system they will have? They will have people recruited from their families who will be appointed to various positions, right? Or they will recruit people from their near and dear ones, right? From their kith and kin, so that they can occupy those positions and they can be ultimately controlled by the king. But Kautilya in 324-25 BC talked about merit system. He said, see, monarch should work for the welfare of people, and the people who will be recruited in the administration, they will be recruited on the basis of examinations. So we cannot say outrightly all the monarchies were like that. But one major feature of monarchical system was that most of them followed these principles to recruit people, to appoint them, and to preserve power within themselves. Right? Later on, obviously, we find a lot of monarchies emerging, right, which were welfaristic, which thought about their subjects, which worked as per the needs of the subjects and likewise, right? But there were variations. But in essence, people were subjects. So later on, let's say later on means later on after the medieval era, right? In Europe, you know how wars were fought in this medieval era. Right? In India also, we see the decline of the Mughal rule. When do we see the decline? Starting of the decline of Mughal rule? Or 1707, right? Google कर लेना भाई. Fine. So 1707, right? So we see the decline of the Mughal rule. Right? The centralized control was losing, and this was the opportunity which Britishers found to be tempting Robert Clive. Right? Then Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, and Diwani rights which they got. So see, so more or less by coming of the 18th century, right? Late 17th century, early 18th century, 19th century, we see that more or less from the entire globe, slowly and slowly, the monarchical systems were eliminated. Now, what happened that they got eliminated? Right? Still, there are a lot of traditional monarchies, but they don't function purely in a monarchical manner. Why did this happen? One of the important changes, historical landmark was Magna Carta. Right? Magna Carta, have you heard of this? नहीं? सुना सुना लगता है. कहाँ सुना? Somewhere around this. Magna Carta was a kind of rights, charter of rights given by the King of England to people. Right? Find out which king. कौन सा लुई था वो? Fine? It's okay. So let us say Magna Carta, right? ये एक charter of rights दिया गया. You can say a set of rights available to people or subjects within the monarchy. So this was probably one of the first instances. Otherwise, इससे पहले भी था वही, right? When you think of Ashok or the concept of Ashoka's Dhamma, पढ़ा है कभी इसके बारे में? So Ashoka's concept of Dhamma, right? Or even Mauryan Empire, we find, right, that they have well-established legal systems. Right? But let's cut to the modern world. So even when we see historical phrases, we see that there were a lot of rock edicts, right, which we find at many places. Rock edicts. C को थोड़ा silent रखते हैं, right? But हम बोल सकते हैं the way you speak. So when you see those rock edicts, we find that these were basically kind of instructions which were established at various places. They were talking about various things, right? Mostly, but see, the rulers how the rulers should treat their subjects, right? What rights subject enjoy, right? What should be the moral, ethical values guiding them? Many things they are writing. So see, many places you'll find, or historically also you'll find that people, there have been kings who have tried to give more rights to the subjects. Fine. But the isolated events, they are not a trend. Right? Monarchies did not follow this trend. Once you hold on to power, you become exploitative. That was logical. But this was one of the interesting developments which saw that, okay, actual rights were written and then given to the people. That is very unique. That you are writing as these rights as an order, and then you are giving this right to the people, subjects, right? Cut to this. Obviously, we find the French Revolution. India was in a colonial state, so obviously, even though India had a lot of other dedicated information or dedicated historical developments in India also, which could be used here, right? But because it was in colonial era, right, we cannot make much reference to that. So French Revolution took place. When did this happen? Not exact time, but yes, you can. 89 में तो events culminate हुए ना. Revolution तो बहुत पहले से start हो गया था. When people started questioning the church, right? When you see the emergence of various philosophers, scholars, scientists, whosoever who started, right, questioning the dominance of the church. So in Europe, you'll find that this was the phase, this was the time, the 16th, 17th century as a phase where you find the dominance of theocracy. Right? Theo is religion. Cracy is rule. So dominance of theocracy or rule of religion. And because of that, you'll find that many people, philosophers, academicians, scientists, so many people started questioning the dominance of religion on the lives of people. Because religion, again, like I said, was an ascriptive feature. Whatever was said, whatever the divine said, that you have to accept. Who will interpret the divine? The church, right? Or the religious institution. So you cannot question the church because it was coming from divine. And how people were exploited under the system. So this was obviously slowly and slowly the theocratic system was discarded. People started questioning. People said, if I have to meet God, why do I need an intermediary like priest or church? I can directly deal with God, right? Faith or religion should not become the guiding principle of political system. Political system is about collective life. Religion is more about individual choice. Right? So our collective living, when we are living together in a system or society, we should not be influenced by religion. It should be a matter of personal choice. So people started questioning it. People started criticizing it. So many people were killed, whatever. See? But there was a very strong relationship between state and religion. This changed after French Revolution. So you see, Renaissance, Reformation, so many things happened. Right? In essence, common sense way, what does it mean? That people became more scientific. Right? People became more rational. See. Now this term you will encounter at so many places in public administration, right? In your general studies, many places you'll find polity, governance, economics, rational. What is rational? Correct. So when you question things, right, without any proof, without any empirical verification, scientific verification, when you don't accept things, right? Rational also means being efficient. How can you become more efficient? Logic. So society became more rational. It became more logical, right? As a consequence, it became more efficient. It started asking things, getting answers. So it wanted answers from so many things. So these people or these scholars, philosophers, whatever they did, they changed or they started focusing on rationality. Right? Rationality is like critical, logical evaluation of anything that happens. It requires factual or scientific explanation of things. Okay. So you see, this promoted somewhere the the moment we became more scientific, we started looking for a better society or developing a better society, developing a better life, right? Fulfilling the needs of people in a better manner. See, so what happened? This initiated. So, to a large extent, the industrialization was a consequence of this rationality, scientific temper, scientific understanding, right? Logical correlation. So the scientific principles were developed. People started applying these scientific principles in daily lives, and they started developing, right? You can say what you say, machines. The machines which could reduce the effort of people. So see, logically understanding the world around you, then using this knowledge to use this world or this nature to fulfill your needs. That is called rationality. So rationality somewhere promoted the need for industrialization. Or bits and pieces you'll find that people contributed, which became an industrial revolution. इसको first industrial revolution बोला जाता है. Then you have second, then you have third, technology today, right? So you can say that now see what is happening. This change, change leading to change in the economic system, right? And obviously this change would discard this kind of state, and it will require some modern welfare state. Modern welfare state. So see, we started discarding monarchical systems. Slowly in Europe, slowly and slowly, monarchies were discarded. They started shifting to new modern political systems. People like Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Machiavelli, MacIver, Boss, Rousseau, Locke, lot of scholars, Voltaire, lot of scholars were there who had contributed to this idea that what should be the appropriate political system for these modern societies. Though majority of them did not favor democracy, that is also surprising, right? They favored benevolent monarchy, many of them, right? But they have done detailed discussion, which is better, a republic system or a monarchical system, right? Is democracy a preferred system? So they did a lot of debates, right? Over a period of time, people started preferring democracy. See? So what is the difference now? Starting from traditional society, right, to tribal councils, to kind of panchayat, to let's say monarchical systems, to benevolent monarchy, right, to French Revolution, this system, that system. Ultimately, we end up in the most preferred form of state or political system that is called democracy. Right? So, see, rationality, industrialization requires a modern political system called democracy. So, urge for democracy emerges. And now, many countries obviously started experimenting with democracy. One, obviously, it was UK, which experimented with democracy in the first place. Then, even before that, right, there were what you can say the cities like, or you can say the small nations like Greece. Have you heard of Greece? Right? Greece was a big civilization. I'm using the word nation, small nation means that there emerged a concept of city state. A city state was not a large territory, it was a small territory. For example, if I say old Rajin Nagar, right, will be treated as a state. So it's a small territory which is functioning like a state, a political system. So when you think of Greece, right, Athens, right, on those areas, okay, we see the emergence of small territories who claimed they are independent. It was basically done to avoid wars, conflicts, and annexation of those territories of one by another. So they started, उसको बहुत famous treaty है, Treaty of Westphalia, we use the word, right? But we should not get into that analysis. Right? Let's stick to our analysis. Otherwise, it will become political science, right? So let's say Treaty of Westphalia, I have a concept of state, I have small states, right? Slowly and slowly, you see, they realized that it is important to have a defined boundary, defined territory, and defined power. Let's not fight for this power. Let's have our own territories and let's govern properly. So actually, the idea emerged there, but it was in a very, what you can say, experimental form. It was very small form. But after the UK, right, UK promoted the idea of democracy. It started experimenting with democracy. And then ultimately, USA. USA becomes one of the full-fledged democracies of the world, right? Somewhere around 1778, yes, or 1772 onwards, you'll find the urge for building constitution in US, right? Starting from Constitution of America to Constitution of USA. What is the difference? ठीक है, Philadelphia Convention हुआ. That is where the Constitution of USA was formed. So Constitution of America and Constitution of United States of America. Okay, there are different phases, you can say, right? Federal system America, if you know. Right? You see, that Constitution of USA, it laid the foundation of modern democracies. Modern democracies with all the ingredients, all the features which a good democracy should have. So see, our concern for democracy comes here. So see, evolving from this, a small traditional society, we enter into what is called a democratic political system, or we use the term democratic state, which refers to a typical type of political system which has some unique features. Demos or democracy comes from two words, demos plus cracy. Demos means people. Cracy means rule. Rule by people. Right? So again, it is like more ideal system. Reality, do we have democracy? Hey, do we have that absolute democracy anywhere? Right? We don't have. Because again, it is a myth. Ideal democracy is a myth. Just like an ideal marriage. Right? These are the contradictory terms, ideal and marriage. If it is marriage, it is not ideal. Right? So see, democracy itself is also a kind of myth. You don't find perfect democracy, right? But yes, we believe that democracy is a system which is run by people. So we prefer democracy, and today most of the modern societies, they will always prefer to be democracy. So if I say there is a traditional or a traditional society with a traditional political system, what that political system could be? A tribal council, a monarchy, a benevolent monarchy, or even exploitative autocratic monarchy. Right? But the moment I say today, we are moving towards becoming a modern political system. So what we would be? A democracy. So from traditional to modern. A shift from traditional systems, political systems, to modern political system. What is this shift? This is shift towards democracy. So today, most of the modern political theories that you study, any modern political philosophies which talk about a good political system, they all refer to democracy. Right? Democracy has two variants. One indirect, other direct. Indirect democracy is where we are, right? We choose our representatives. Representatives work on our behalf. Direct is where we do the things, make the policies, right? Monitor the implementation ourselves. Can we do it today? No. It is very difficult because there are large territories, huge population. Functions are also so complex that we cannot so much waste so much of time gathering everyone, discussing it, and then coming to a conclusion. Impossible. So see, small territories with small population can still follow direct democracy, but we cannot follow. So most of the modern efficient political systems are indirect democracies. Right? So when we make a transition from monarchy to democracy, what happens to us? We the people. हमारा क्या होता है? You see, power system, monarch is replaced by a prime minister or a president or a minister, whatever. What happens to us? We change from, see, subjects to citizens. Okay, this is what we had to understand. So for this, we had to develop so much of story, right? Ultimately, we make a transition. We, people, we are now treated as citizens, not as subject. This is a big transformation. Yes, we have our say, correct. But why do we have our say? Because now we are more empowered. Now we are not developed, right? The sense of citizenship or civicism is what makes us citizen, right? This term simply means we are aware of our rights. We have rights, we are aware of the rights. We know how to exercise these rights, right? These rights restrict the role of the state and government. ये उसका meaning. So here, state has unrestricted power. Here, the state is restricted by us. See the difference. So see, rule of king, rule of man, right? I'm not using women. Hardly there were women queens, right? But they were powerful, no doubt. But let us say rule of men, right? Rule of humans replaced by rule of law. You know what is rule of law? Right? Anybody? You don't have to think so much. You have to just speak. Where? Oh, correct. So law would mean what? That it is not some individual who is deciding what is to be done. Right? It is a set of rules which is deciding what is to be done. So there is no discretion. There is no subjectivity. Right? There is no manipulation. Because it is not any individual who is deciding. Whether he is king or king's kin and kith and kin or family, whatever, it doesn't matter. So when we are shifting from monarchy, traditional systems, right, we are removing the dominance of few individuals in deciding what thousands of others will do. That we have changed. And now, so this king, right, or his men, or his group, or his kith and kin, his family, whatever. Now they are not going to decide our fate. We will decide our own fate. But how we'll do it? See? So this is replacing rule of kings by rule of law, right? Or rule of men, right? Without any gender biasness, I'm writing it, right? Is replaced by rule of law, right? Or we use a term, Latin phrase here. Rex lex to lex rex, where king, rex is king. King is law, to law is king. So where one person was law, right, to now where the law is deciding everything. So what is law was decided by one person. Today law is deciding what will be done in the society. So big difference is there. So rule of law क्या है? These are universal principles developed in unbiased manner, which are applicable on everyone equally. That is the meaning of rule of law. It has so many features, that's okay. But in simple way, you can understand it is a universal set of principles, right, or regulations which are imposed on everyone in the society, irrespective of his rank, status, caste, community, creed, race, whatever. So that is what the meaning of rule of law. But if it is rule of king, he will choose, right, what law is applicable to whom, right? Show me the person and then I will tell you the law. तो लॉ कैसा होगा? वो पर्सन, ग्रुप, कम्युनिटी स्पेसिफिक होगा. The will of the king will dominate and not the unbiased principle. See? So this is a big transformation. So when you think of public administration, the emergence of modern administrative system, or when you use the word bureaucracy, where are you using it? You're using it with reference to this. तो जो भी आप पबैट पढ़ेंगे, जो भी public administration we are talking about, or we will eventually talk about, that all comes from the development of these kind of political systems. So most of the syllabus is coming from American perspective of public administration, or it is basically the content of study which is mostly visible in democratic America. So your paper one is, most of the content of paper one is coming from the development of this subject in America, where we have a typical kind of democracy. So all the modern scholars who study public administration, they always believe that public administration or the study of public administration is mostly with reference to democracies, right? But in reality, administration was visible everywhere, in every society. But the study of public administration, that is visible more recently, around 150 years back. And that is mostly with reference to democracies. So if you say public administration as a subject, when did it emerge? 150 years, almost. Right? Where did it emerge? In the context of Europe and America, mostly democracies. What about administration as a system? What about administration as an activity? Was it there? Yes, it was there. Since the time people evolved themselves. So since the time we have civilization, these things were always there. But when did we start studying? Just 150 years back. So our study mostly comprises of the study of public administration under democracy and a rule of law system. Right? So you've heard about rule of law. Right? You understand what exactly rule of law means. So it's not necessary that you have to mug up these things or you have to know each and every, but you understand the sense of this. Because these ideas will be used many places, right? So we'll start referring to, let's say, change from monarchy to democracy. So you should understand, give me what is the meaning, right? We are no more a subject, we are a citizen. So you should understand what is the meaning, right? You have understood this much, right? So we should not have excess information overload. Monday onwards, we'll start writing answers. So I'll keep giving you some questions slowly in the beginning, right? Simple questions. So अगर अब state को define करना हम कैसे define करेंगे? How do we do it now if you have to define a state? Correct. A political system. Don't leave that part. Fine. Good. Right. Now today, in the modern world also, the definition of the state has changed. We are talking about democracy, all that fine. But see, 1945 onwards, Second World War hua. So what happened? What happened to the world? Did world benefit from these two world wars? नहीं पता, पैदा ही नहीं थे, क्या पता. But did we benefit in some manner? Yes, correct. We became independent, we benefited. Many developing countries were decolonized. We also realized that we should never fight again. That was very logical. Fine? Correct. So, see, once the Second World War was over, we tried to create a new global order. Right? That is called as a new world or new global society. Why did we move towards it? So that we could restrict any future wars, future conflicts, anything that may create a threat for the stability of this planet. So we realized that we should work for global benefits, not for individual, local, national benefit. Collective benefits के लिए काम करना चाहिए. So we created an organization called League of Nations, later on called as United Nations. And then we also developed two more organizations known as Bretton Woods Twins, World Bank and IMF. ये जो international organizations थे, why they were created? They were created for the same reason. That now, from now on, post Second World War, we should try to avoid, we should eliminate any threat of conflict in future. And we should focus more on negotiation, communication, right? Through unbiased, neutral systems like these. That is why we created them. So, United Nations, World Bank, IMF, these are called multilateral institutions, right? Global institutions. Why they are called multilateral? Why they are called multilateral? Correct. Yes. We all have our own doors to this system. हम सबको access है भाई. Entire world has access to this system. It looks at a particular problem from diverse angles, not just dominated by America or Europe and likewise. So that was the purpose of bringing or making United Nations, so that future wars can be avoided. Obviously, America had become very powerful after the Second World War, especially the use of nuclear weapon, atomic bomb. Oppenheimer, did you see that? That also you did not see. Why do you think watching movie will reduce your rank? फर्स्ट से थर्ड पे आ जाओगे ऐसा लगता है. Same will happen because of reading too much of newspaper also. Okay? When you will give the exam, ultimately you will realize, if you qualify, that all this was useless exercise. Right now it feels good, right? Feels comfortable, feels exciting. Right? We're studying the newspaper. Why you read newspaper? You don't study, you read it. Why you read newspaper? So that you can develop that personality, mindset, attitude, where you can understand that whatever knowledge you have acquired, does it have any practical relevance or not? So see, if somebody says read newspapers, current affairs are there, ask him, tell me, how many questions in the question paper are directly current affairs and they are not syllabus? Right? Every current affairs comes with a context of syllabus. So you might feel कि बहुत सारा आप पढ़ोगे सब यूजलेस है, बट क्यों पढ़ रहे हो उसी? Because it has a specific contribution to developing your approach. If you are more informed, you have logic, you can tackle a problem more easily. You can understand a question more logically. You can approach the answer in a more evolved manner, mature manner. Like the essays they are giving. अब उन essays को रट के तो नहीं जा सकते. You have to think that for those essays, let's say in 3 hours. You have to think what they mean first, right? Then you have to understand what they are trying to say. Then what are the possible dimensions in which you can write it, right? What kind of language you should use it. This is like a fast decision making. And for that, when you read more, right? Your brain is a muscle. So when you exercise more, the muscle develops. Same way, the brain muscle develops. Okay, that is called neuroelasticity, neuroplasticity. So you should move from neuroplasticity to neuroelasticity. See, इसलिए हम पढ़ते हैं, right? So always don't think that something has to be read only for, right, gaining some information. So see, once let's say United Nations emerges, it creates now a new global order. That's correct, a new world order, and it tries to balance the power amongst nations. So now United Nations, right? It started something like an Aadhaar system, right? Aadhaar for recognizing states. Just like we have Aadhaar for us, it started an Aadhaar for different countries of the world. And it said, see, these are the conditions you should fulfill, and then only we will recognize you as a state, right? As a legitimate political system. Tabhi accept karenge, see. So United Nations came with certain conditions, and it said in this new world order, new global order, if the countries satisfy these conditions, they will be legally accepted as state. Right? They will have this status for international relations. They will have this status for international purposes. What were those conditions of United Nations? That to be a state, you should have a defined territory. कहाँ हो पहले ये भी तो बताओ. Right? Your location should be well defined. Right? You cannot simply point out someday. Modi ji can point out, भाई पाकिस्तान ये हमारा ही है. Right? So tomorrow he might say कि भाई ये भी है India. Right? So it is quite possible. Right? China is already trying to do that with Arunachal. Right? So let's say you have to have defined territory, well-established maps, cartography, right? Data, statistics, everything. It should be well defined. This is our territorial extent. Physical, marine, aerial, सब. ठीक है, टेरिटरी का मतलब सिर्फ लैंड बाउंड्री, लैंड फ्रंटियर नहीं होता है, right? So marine boundary, it's an aerial boundary. So you have a defined territory. Then you have, or you should have a defined population. See, the CA NRC exercise was all done to understand, right, what is the defined population of this country. Right? NPR is different. Right? National Population Registry, it's like maintenance of the people who are within this boundary, right? But CA and RC is for recognizing the citizens, not for the population. Population is a general term. So you have defined population. Then third criteria, they say that you should have sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Yes, internal and external both. So there are both the concepts. Internal sovereignty, external sovereignty means we are absolute. We are free from any pressure of making decisions. Our decisions are independently ours. So political, social, economic, whatever, we claim our sovereignty. So when Britishers were leaving us, India Independence Act 1947 was made, right? And through that, our cabinet mission plan was created when constituent assemblies were created. So India Independence Act was made, right? And India became India technically. So when India became India, India claimed sovereignty then and there. Though Pakistan took, right, almost 9 years to claim that sovereignty. So Pakistan actually sovereign हुआ 1956 में, but India sovereign हो गया 1947 itself. Right? That is why Nehru's famous speech that tonight we make a tryst with destiny. So we claimed sovereignty, right? We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved ourselves into वो बाकी socialist तो बाद में add हुआ, right? But let's say we claimed sovereignty. We claimed independence from any outside force and any internal pressure. Right? That is sovereignty. So it is the absolute power that you enjoy in your territory. Right? And obviously while dealing with others as well. Fourth. Right? See, rule of law or an acceptable, basically acceptable or legitimate form of government. So they are saying that you should not be a dictatorial regime, right? It should not be a kind of Taliban. You should not be ISIS. You should not be this. You should be a legitimate system, right? Acceptable system which your people have accepted. Right? It can be any form, but it should be legitimate and acceptable form of system, or you should follow rule of law. So your country should be governed by unbiased, neutral principles of law, right? And it should be applicable to everyone. So see, there is no exploitation, there is no centralization of power within few people. There are no elites who are governing this society. See, likewise. So now, if you fulfill all these conditions simultaneously, you will be recognized as a state. Or you can understand this way, you will be recognized as a legitimate political system for international relations purposes. So to enter into agreement, to form contract with someone, to come into covenant, or you can say a contract with someone, to become part of the international decision making, right? To question things at the international forum, so your participation can be allowed, and likewise. So for all these things, you must have that Aadhaar card, right? International Aadhaar, which is the recognition of you as a state. So state is a legal recognition provided by United Nations, right? If you fulfill certain conditions. So see, when you're asked what is a state, don't jump to this definition. This definition is just a modern manifestation. It's a modern style, right? Or modern recognition method. State in general is the definition which we have talked about. Right? This is just a kind of guideline. It does not define state. It only provides what are the characteristics of state. Understanding this logic, you have understood this much, fine. So don't put excess pressure on your brains, right? You should be free and creative while you are preparing for this exam. So we'll meet tomorrow, right? Kindly go through this once, so that once we start using them, then you should not feel uncomfortable. That is the purpose of this exercise. So lot of terms, governance, good governance, government kya hai, constitution kya hai. So we'll talk about, right? Once you know these terms, lot of your effort will be saved later. Fine. You want to ask something? You want some doubt you have? Right. Okay. Any doubt beyond the classroom? क्लासरूम के बियॉन्ड कोई डाउट है? मोदी जी क्या खाते हैं, केजरीवाल क्या चाहते हैं? नहीं है. See you then tomorrow. All the best. We'll do all that, don't worry. Once I told you you will teach puppet, then you should understand that what will happen. So don't worry. Right? We'll dictate, you will write, you will get handouts. Handouts will be supplementary to the class. Once you understand class, write notes, then read the handouts. Right? Once you do that, then you keep writing answers. So class is essential. तो जो भी नोट्स होगा सब क्लास में पढ़ूंगा.